Ciao a tutti and welcome to Venice Talks, a podcast series about Venice in Italy. My name is Monica Cesarato and I am a Venetian food and travel blogger. I'm going to put my insider knowledge at your disposal to help you discover Venice at 360 degrees. Each week, I will be chatting to the people who really matter, the Venetian. So follow me on the discovery of its artisans, writers, fashion designers, artists, glassmakers, bloggers, and much, much more. Come to visit Venice the right and sustainable way. You can find me on my blog www.monicacesarato.com and also on all social media. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to Venice Talks, episode number 14. This episode is sponsored by Cooking Venice, cooking lessons, dinners and food tours in Venice. You can find them at www.cookinvenice.com. Welcome back to Venice Talks, and today my guest is Gregory Dowling, renowned author and professor at University of Venice. Hi Gregory, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. Very good to be with you, Monica.
Thank you, and thank you so much for giving me your time because I know you're really, really, really busy all the time, above all between school and writing and everything.
Yeah.
So let's explain to everybody who is Gregory Dowling, first of all. Oh, you.
You want
Hello?
me to explain?
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course, I want you to say who you are.
Okay, I teach American literature at Ca Foscari University.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Venice now for 41 years.
Wow.
And I also write, when I can, I write novels, thrillers.
Yeah, and you're very well known for those, maybe probably more than teaching, maybe, or not?
I don't think I'm very well known.
Oh, you are,
Yeah,
you are. Come on, you are one of the
maybe in
most
Venice.
famous in Venice. Come on, you definitely are.
Thank
So you got, okay, let's start from your work at university. So you actually came here 41 years ago.
Yes, 1981.
Oh my God, how did you end up in Venice?
I wanted a year abroad.
Oh, that's a long year.
Well, actually, no, I mean, I came to Italy in 1979.
Okay.
After really just pretty well, very soon after graduating university, and I decided I wanted to spend a year teaching abroad, and so I got a job in a language school first in Naples, and then I went to Siena, and then I went to Verona, and then after I'd been teaching in Verona for a year and a half, I thought to myself, I suppose I ought to go back to England and get a proper job, a real job. But if I could just have 1 year in Venice. And so I applied to a language school in Venice, and they took me on, and there I was. Once you get to Venice, it's impossible to get away.
Yeah, I think it is some, it's so interesting how many people I've known that actually have moved to Venice and they say, oh yeah, I will go and do this and do that. And then you just stay there. It's like a door closes.
It makes you unsuited to live anywhere else. Because
do you think it's because there are no cars, so you
that's
kind of
one of the
take
big
it
things.
easy?
Yes, everywhere else has these great big things, metal things on wheels that go around the streets, and when you live in Venice after a while, you're no longer used to these things.
Yeah, I think you get lazy, don't you?
Maybe.
But it's really interesting how many expats, and not just expats, even Italians that come and live in Venice and then end up doing that, finding it harder and harder just even to take day trips out of a town, actually. So, and how did you get a job at the university then?
Well, I was teaching language at a language school, and then somebody, after a couple of years, a friend told me there was a post going for language teaching at the university. So I applied, and they took me on, and then and I knew I wanted to teach literature, so it took me a very long time, but eventually I managed to worm my way into the system.
Yeah, but in Italy it's not easy, no.
It takes a long time. That's it. One of the things is, I mean, I've been assigned as a language teacher to the American section, and because there were no Americans available to teach language. So, and essentially, as I realized that basically the Italian university system is a feudal system, at least it was then. I think it has changed greatly. At the time it was feudal, and, you know, that there were I baroni, the barons.
Yeah, of course.
You know, my only hope of advancement or, you know, making a career would be to have the support of a baron. So I took the pragmatic decision of that I wanted to teach literature. I would have to teach, you know, I would have to concern myself with American literature, because my barons were American, specialists in American literature. And so I began, you know, publishing articles here and there on American poets, and eventually won a concorso.
And when was this?
I didn't win a concorso until 1999. So,
oh wow, took a long time.
So I was
just so the people who are listening to us, Italian, you know, concorsi, this kind of competition to get a job in the public system. It's like a farce sometimes, as in they already know who's gonna go. So it's very hard to pass for that reason. Not because people are not good, it's because you need to have the right people behind.
Well, I honestly do think that Ca Foscari has changed a great deal over the years. Good. And I, you know, I mean, when I started at Ca Foscari, all of my colleagues were had done, you know, everybody was from Ca Foscari.
Yes.
They'd done their first degree, they'd done their masters, they'd done their PhD at Ca Foscari, etc. But now I teach in a department where, you know, at least half of my colleagues are from, not only from other cities, but from other countries.
Oh, that's nice.
Obviously, I'm teaching in the language, you know, I am in the Department of Languages, but, you know, I'm surrounded, it's a very, very international field. And
that's good. But I think in general, university has had to change to keep up with, you know, international universities, and, you know, Italy has changed. So I think slowly, very slowly, but, you know, we're talking about a system that was there for centuries. So it wasn't, I don't think it was very easy to change, even though I didn't like it. I think, but and how come you haven't managed to go into English literature then?
Well, I think once you've got a post in to change to, I mean, I'm very happy teaching American literature. I'm happy teaching American literature. I'm also equally interested in English literature. And for example, I specialize in the Romantic poets Byron. But that's sort of, if you like, it's a kind of hobby, because officially I am not a professor of English literature, but I'm very happy to be teaching the American authors I do teach, and also be able to bring in English literature when it's necessary.
Before we talk about your books, you just mentioned Byron, and if I'm not wrong, I think it was during the lockdown last time we spoke, or maybe last year, I can't remember which interview, you mentioned to me about Lord Byron Museum or some kind of foundation. Am I right? Yes. How is that going?
That is going, that was due to open, I look sometimes at my CV, where, you know, I have, among other things, I mentioned the fact that I'm on this board for this new museum, and every year I have to change the date of the imminent opening of the Byron Museum.
Sounds like me and my upcoming book in English.
Right. You know, various things have happened. Then, of course, COVID came along.
Yeah, of course.
But it now should open in 2023. Well, so next year the museum will be open. I'm going to Ravenna this weekend, and I'll be able to see just what stage the museum is at. And I'm looking forward to that, because
that's good. So it's in Ravenna in Emilia Romagna.
It's in Ravenna, because Byron lived in Ravenna for 2 years, from 1819 to 1821, and so it's in the palazzo where Byron lived for those 2 years.
Oh, very nice. Is this going to be a civic museum, a state museum? What kind of museum is it going to be? Private?
It's funded by the Fondazione della Cassa di Risparmio di Ravenna. So the Savings Bank of Ravenna is the main sponsor of this museum, and it's going to be the museum it's of the Risorgimento and of Lord Byron.
Okay.
which makes sense because Byron was heavily involved with the Carbonari, for example. And so, half of the museum will, there already is a museum, Museo del Risorgimento in Ravenna, but it's in a rather cramped, it's in a rather cramped building. And they'll now be able to move into this much splendid palazzo and expand the museum. And then the floor devoted to Lord Byron.
And what can we expect to find then in the Museum of Lord Byron? Sorry.
So there's very little there's very little that was there at the time of Lord Byron, in the sense that the building has gone up through many hands, so most of the furnishings, etc., were sold off over the years. For a long time, it was a military barracks. But the Library of Ravenna, the La Biblioteca Classense, has the holdings of Teresa Guiccioli, who was and of the Gamba family. This was Byron's mistress, the woman he was in love with, the reason he went to Ravenna. And she collected the Byron memorabilia, and so those holdings will be transferred from the Biblioteca Classense to the new museum. And that's nice. There's a number of documents, number of including, for example, fragments of Lord Byron's sunburnt skin.
Oh God! Okay, now that's a bit creepy.
When we tell people, usually this is the one item that everybody remembers and everybody wants to see.
Yeah, also because, gosh,
but there are many other things. And then we've been collecting as much Byron material as we have, first editions of his works, Byron's traveling case, all sorts of, there's also going to be a virtual part of the museum where we recreate, using modern technology, certain ambiances, and we give an idea of Byron's life, etc.
Cool.
And the other thing is that it will be the headquarters of the Italian Byron Society.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So the people that study Byron and research and everything.
Yeah. We've already held a couple. We've held international conferences there in Ravenna, not in the Palazzo, but in Ravenna itself. And once the Palazzo, we'll then be able to host events there as well now.
Was there any materials that you managed to find here in Venice as well, that you managed to bring over or not?
No, because there was nothing. Palazzo Mocenigo, where Byron lived for 3 years on the Grand Canal, there was nothing of Byron's left there, I'm afraid.
Okay.
So,
that's a pity.
No.
Okay, that's actually, I can't wait. Well, I said that last time, I can't wait, but okay, it'll be like my book. Okay, when it's ready, let me know.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, I definitely, also because Ravenna is a beautiful city.
It's a lovely city, yeah.
And it was linked for so many years to Venice as well, so it's
that's true.
And the history and everything is so important.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about Gregory as a writer. When did you write your first novel?
My first novel came out in 1985, but I wrote most of it in 1982. Then it took a long time to find a publisher, etc. And so, yeah, that came out in 90. So I was pretty young at the time. And that was a novel. I wrote it when I was living in Verona.
Okay.
But it's entirely set in England. Because at the time I didn't feel confident enough to set a novel in
Italy,
the country I had just moved to, and I didn't feel confident enough to write about Italians, etc. And then my second novel was set in Naples. So I was already feeling a little more
confident.
And that's the only one of my novels that actually has been translated into Italian.
Oh, right. Okay. Interesting.
And in Neapolitan Publishing House, just a series of novels by foreigners about Naples.
Okay, that's interesting.
And
then how did you get into Alvise?
Well, I published 4 thrillers in the 1980s and 1990s, with the idea that I was going to go on doing them. But then I had a novel that was well, then I tried a children's novel,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, I wrote a kind of fantasy novel, and it was the wrong moment because it was a novel that talked about things like wizards, and
Oops.
the publishers came to me and said, this is the 1990s. Children today aren't interested in wizards.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
Harry
but
Potter
that
came
sort
out.
of put an end to that. So and I thought to myself, well, what I've really got to do is consolidate my academic career, because I couldn't justify the time I was devoting to writing what I was actually earning from it. At that moment, I wasn't earning anything.
Yeah, of course. No,
So,
because it's really funny. People
family.
think it's so
Yeah.
interesting how people think when you write a book, all of a sudden you make loads of money. No.
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah.
At all. Okay, I can confirm.
But your Baccarat novel is there is going to be an English edition of the
it's like your museum at the moment.
Right. Okay.
So
has it been translated, or is it?
No, it's been translated. The translation is sitting in the computer of my publisher. The problem is that just as he was finally convinced that he was going to print it in English, the war started, and paper price has gone up so much, and he decided that he wants to wait a little bit longer. But he's commissioned me another 2 books, so that's quite good. Yeah. And he promised me these 2 will come out both. But
I see, I keep seeing on Twitter there's a demand for the English edition. So.
I know. I keep telling him. He said about a month ago, he said to me, "Okay, I'm gonna get a quote to see how much it's gonna cost me, but I don't want to stress him too much. I'm waiting for the 2,000 copies numbers to go, and then I'll go back on the attack." But back to what you were saying to me. So you decided that you couldn't carry on just writing.
I had to consolidate my academic. I mean, I had to become more than just a lettore. I was a lettore at the university, teaching language, which wasn't enough to keep a family.
Yeah, of course. One, and second, also a bit boring, if I can say. No.
Sorry.
A bit boring as well, just being a reader, a lettore. It's not exactly as teaching, is it?
Well, it wasn't. I mean, I didn't mind the teaching. I mean, it was just it just wasn't financially very remunerative. So I needed to, I devoted myself to publishing, academic work, etc., etc. And I thought that would just be very temporary, but in fact, it turned out to be 20 years before I returned to novel writing. And then when I returned to novel writing, I decided I needed to do something completely different. Partly because, I published novels that, but my idea was I was always writing contemporary novels, but I just was struck by how quickly a contemporary novel becomes dated.
I know.
Just to give a simple example, I had a novel which was all about the one I mentioned, set in Naples. It was all about people trying to get their hands on a cassette tape, which had the recording of a murder being commissioned. And the cover of the novel in the English cover had this very beautiful image of a cassette tape with blood pouring out of it. But of course, just a few years on, nobody knew what a cassette tape was.
Exactly. Yeah, of course.
So I thought to myself, if I set a novel that's already in the past, that's already dated, then it can't date, you see.
Exactly. Yeah, they can't say anything.
I thought I'd have, and I've always loved historical fiction, so I thought I'd have a go myself. And I didn't want to go too far back in time because I wasn't sure I could get into the mind of somebody in the Middle Ages, for example. But I thought with the 18th century, these are people who've been through the Enlightenment, etc., etc. And there's so much material. And particularly in Venice, you can read Goldoni's plays, you can read Casanova's memoirs.
Yeah, you can find so much.
Yeah, you get a sense of the age and the way people thought.
Yeah, you can get a lot of material where you can double check and must say, is this correct? Is this not correct? Yeah, of course.
So I went for the 18th century and a hero who was English Italian, English Venetian, let's say, Anglo-Venetian.
Yeah, that's good.
His parents were Venetian, but his mother was an actress and moved to England when he was a small child. So he grew up in England. And so he's bilingual in English and Venetian. And that gives me the possibility of, both writing for an English audience, but with a hero who also understands Venice because he's heard about it through his mother, etc. And then in Venice, he's a guide, he's a cicerone.
It makes me actually, I find it so interesting because the other day I was reading, I cannot remember which book, one that a friend suggested I read all about Venice. And he was actually mentioning the fact that the first tourist guides were born in Venice.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
At the Hotel Luna Baglioni, where that it was like a Templar accommodation. And they were taking the pilgrims around the city of Venice.
Right.
And I thought that was so interesting. I thought, oh wow, exactly the same. So that's very good. But how hard is because you say you did your research and everything, but how hard is it to set a novel in the past? Because as you were saying, you got to think also as somebody from 200 years ago would have thought.
Yeah.
300.
Well, yes, you can't make your hero too woke, so to speak.
Yeah,
they've got to have the kind of prejudices, etc., that they would have had at the time. One of the things I have to do is I try to avoid too many contemporary colloquial expressions. So I'm not trying to reproduce 18th century speech, but I don't want to make it sound anachronistic either. So
like is a
I don't allow Alvise to say okay, for example.
Of course.
Sort of things like that. The other thing I did was, in the second, because I had one or two criticisms, sometimes simply by readers on Amazon when the first novel came out, who said that occasionally he used, language that didn't seem natural for an 18th century. I introduced this little preface to the second novel in which I myself, as the author, said that I had discovered these I'd gone to the archives and I found these confessions of this Alvise Marangon, who was a guide but also a spy, there in the archives, and I've been translating them. So that explains why they're written in contemporary English rather than
that's smart.
But the interesting thing is, so many people have come, have said to me, I'm amazed that you discovered these, these archive material, and how did you find it, etc. I thought I was using a kind of literary device that's fairly common. You invent.
Yeah, of course. It's brilliant.
It's fiction. It's intended to be fiction.
And it's very interesting that he's a spy because, of course, I don't know if people know this, but Venice was a country that was oh my God,
also invented the you might say the modern spy system.
I know. I'm reading at the moment La Repubblica del Leone di Alvise Zorzi at the moment, and it's rereading it. But it's so interesting, when you read certain things and Venice did, the first this, the first that, and then how quickly people forgot about the achievement of the Republic of Venice. So it's good. So how many novels did you actually write about with Alvise as a main character?
Well, unfortunately, only 2 so far.
Okay, but you are...
I'm writing a third,
that's good.
I did another book I think I ought to mention that was very helpful. There's a book by a scholar called Ioanna Iordanou, which is called Venice's Secret Service, Organizing Intelligence in the Renaissance.
Cool.
Unfortunately, that came out after my first book had come out, but it was very helpful for my second book. It's a wonderful book that I do recommend to people who are interested in this subject. Unfortunately, my second novel, The Four Horsemen, didn't do as well in sales as the first one, even though a lot of people have told me they preferred it. They thought it was better than the first one. But publishers go by sales, and they decided not to commission a third one.
Okay.
And that sort of blocked me, because one of the problems is if you can look for another publisher, but it's very unlikely that another publisher will want to take on a series begun with a different publisher.
Of course, yeah, because you have all the rights problem.
No, I mean, that's not, it's not actually a problem of rights. I now have the rights.
Okay.
My agent has managed to arrange that the rights have returned to me.
Oh, that's good.
But quite simply, publishers like to establish their own, this is our series.
Yeah, of course. Then if you want to go and do another trilogy, another whatever, just do it somebody else. So, this is mine. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but so for a while I thought I would try and write something completely different. I had two ideas. One was a novel set in the 1930s, during fascist Venice.
Nice.
Another one was set in 19th century, in which I'd bring in a hero who was the illegitimate son of Lord Byron.
Oh, cool. That would have been nice.
Yeah, they're both nice ideas, but then for some reason I couldn't get them. Basically, I wanted to stay with Alvise.
Let's say Alvise was still in your mind and he had a lot still to say, does it?
So I've decided I'm going to write a third Alvise novel.
Okay.
Whatever. And
good.
And whatever. I'm going to write it. And if nobody, I'm going to find a publisher or it's going to, I'm going to publish it.
So
enough people have told me they want to read a third Alvise.
Of course,
it's worth doing. So
yeah. So how far in the book are you at the moment?
Not very far. Far.
Okay. The title.
I started in the summer. And,
okay.
And then I've had a very busy first half of this semester.
So are you like me and Philip? We are the gods of procrastination.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No,
when I speak to you guys, I feel so much better.
I've had articles and essays and things and conference. I have a conference this week on Shelley, which is taking place in Bologna and Ravenna.
Ooh.
And after that, I think I then have a kind, apart from my teaching, I should then have some free time for my own writing.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I mean, it's usually I keep saying to my editor, you can't just say to me, spring 23, give me a date. Yeah. Spring 23 for me means everything or nothing.
Yeah.
So when you this is for me I'm very interested in this. When you actually do your research for the book, do you actually do you read also other people that wrote other thrillers and stuff like that, or do you do your research more on the historical side?
I mean, I do read thrillers because I like reading thrillers.
Oh, okay. You like Philip. You like the genre.
I like the genre. But for example, I've come across two other writers who have written thrillers set in Venice in the 18th century. And I read one and I quite enjoyed it, but I decided not to read any more, at least until because I was afraid of being
influenced
and not doing my own stuff, and
of course.
So I decided I thought better not,
Of course.
I mean, I might go back to them, but at the moment, I think I want to be sure that what I'm doing is my own. And that, but I'm obviously also influenced by other thrillers I read, which are not set in 18th century Venice, etc. But you read for writers to see. I just find things like how to structure a plot, this kind of thing. You can only learn these things by reading as widely as possible.
Yes, and I think also the subject has been covered by pretty much so many people. But I mean, unless you are another Agatha Christie or another, it's not easy to change, to do so much different. But still, Venice, I think, is such a. We were talking yesterday with a couple of days ago with Philip. We were saying how Venice is such a source, infinite source of ideas.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we have, because Philip and David Hewson and we had this conversation at the Libreria Studium.
Yes, I know you had this beautiful presentation. I'm sorry I missed it, but. Whatever.
It's available on Facebook still.
That's good.
Go to the Libreria Studium Facebook page.
Okay, I'll have a look at it.
It's still there. And it was great. I mean, two very good friends, both of whose novels I I greatly enjoy. And fortunately, we're all writing very different kinds of novels. So
well, it's good.
I don't feel that we're...
Fortunately, you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fortunately, that's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But both of them said, well, David was saying that, you know, he comes to Venice and he just walks around the city, and he's all, just wherever he goes, he has ideas for 10 new novels, so to speak.
That's not good. I don't really. I'm scared now. I'm meeting him. If he every corner is he sees murders, it's a bit scary now. Now, we were talking with Philip, and we were saying that maybe one particular thing about Venice is also the lighting in the night.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of atmosphere from any other city. It is the lighting. I mean, the dark alleys like Venice has, the particularly, I don't know, suffused lighting that there is in the city is nowhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And the reflection from the water and so on is just
Absolutely.
so,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I got to say, I'm a huge fan of Don't Look Now. Even though I never managed to watch it all as a whole, because that's so scary.
Philip and I have had many arguments. Well, not I. We've discussed it on Facebook. We had Facebook's discussions, because I'm not a fan of Don't Look Now.
Really? I think it's the only film that I really like set in Venice.
That's interesting. No, because my feeling is that it's not entirely true to Venice, because Venice, when you know it, isn't scary.
No, I know that. No, but you know, but it is the only one I find that didn't go and alter the, you know, going from A to B, make you, I don't know, they didn't picture
there are a few
postcard.
Yeah,
but it's not like a postcard. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not a postcard. No. It's certainly. I think it has many virtues. I mean, it's filmed cinematically in terms of the visual effects. I think it's brilliant. But I just object to the fact that it doesn't make sense.
Okay, but there are so many other films that we can start going down that. Well, listen, there are many other things set in Venice that don't make sense.
The horrific moment at the end certainly makes you jump. You know, when you watch it in the cinema, it's very effective.
Yeah.
But then you think, but why?
Really?
Who is this guy? What is
But saying that from the point of view of the photographic is amazing. I mean, I got to say, and I love it because there are no special effects that I repeat, I never managed to watch it all from beginning to the end, because I find it way too scary. But as you say, it's true. When you walk in Venice, though, it's true. You don't feel scared. I mean, I always say to people when they, you know, if I have ladies traveling by themselves, say, look, you can walk at 3 o'clock in the morning in Venice, and the only thing I'm scared is rats, because every so often you see them. But that very rarely I felt. I mean, I don't know if now things are changing, but I don't know. I think because Venice is, if you are not, let's say, if you're poor, it's definitely not a city you can live on.
No,
I think that's the reason why, probably, you know. And so anyway, so we're waiting for the new book now. We're waiting for the museum. Gosh, we're waiting for loads of things, Gregory, here.
I realize.
But have you ever thought about maybe trying to find a Venetian publisher?
You mean
for publishing
in English, in
English and in Italian?
Well, you know, the problem is there's the whole question of how much it costs to translate.
You cannot translate it yourself?
No, I can't translate myself. I cannot write it. You know, when people
can't you ask your wife to translate it for you?
She's a very busy woman. I don't think
you'll end up having to pay her for it.
You know, because people ask me sometimes, do you write in Italian? And I say, you know, only if I say to myself, I find it difficult enough to write in English. You know, so writing in Italian is a no-go.
Oh gosh.
I honestly think that, you know, I don't know, do you write have you translated your own book into Italian, into English?
Yeah, I translated it myself.
Well, I think, well, congratulations.
And then I sent it off. Yeah, that's it's a small book, but also because it would have cost me. That's the only reason why my publisher said I'll publish it in Italian, because he didn't have to pay for a translator.
Exactly.
But then I was very lucky that a very good friend of mine, she used to be an editor in America. Do you remember I even wrote to you and asked you?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, do you remember about the punctuations and stuff, where we had a little bit of a discussion about with my friend? But she very kindly had a look at it. But she said to me, to be honest with you, apart from that and a couple of things that they were in Venetians, they weren't even in Italian. She said to me that I did quite a good job, but it's a small book anyway. It's not, I think if I had to translate something along the line of Lord of the Rings, I would have problems too. So it's not the same. But I've got to say, I prefer to write in English than in Italian. Funny enough.
That's interesting. No, I never reached that stage. I mean, I speak Italian all the time, etc. But I'm always aware that it's not my language. It's my second language.
Yeah, me too. But when it comes down to write, I find it easier. Even I know I make mistakes, but for me, it comes easier to write in English than in Italian, because Italian is always sometimes so flowery. Right. So constructed. I don't know, I just find English a bit more sometimes when in Italian I'm reading things and I have to read 3 times what I'm reading, because the sentence is so long that I lost track of what it was at the beginning.
But I mean, if you don't have to write like that in Italian, you can decide.
But if you write proper, well, you don't, but you should, because if you're that's what we're trying to say, that nowadays people are writing shorter and shorter sentences, and we're getting away from the real Italian. So I feel very bad, and then you have to remember we are in Venice, where everybody scrutinizes you. So got to be careful. So after the museum, after the book, what's your next plans then? Have you got anything else, any other project?
Well, I got more books I want to write, certainly.
Okay, that's good.
The museum will keep us busy, because once the museum is open, we're then going to have to, it's going to be, as I say, the center of the Byron Society, so we can have to continually organize events, conferences, talks, and I think that will be exciting.
That's good. That's good. One last thing I want to ask you, that I asked Philip yesterday as well. What's it like for a foreign person to live in Venice? And since you've been here 41 years, you're not foreigner anymore, but
I mean, I love it. I consider I'm a very privileged person to have had this experience. I'm aware that, yes, I am privileged because, my wife and I, we have a house, we've got jobs, etc. But for young people, I can see, well, thinking of my own sons, neither of whom is now living in Venice.
Okay.
They would both like to be. They're able to live in Venice, but it's, as you said, it's simply too expensive.
Yes,
this is the big problem, and Venice has changed so much in the 40 years I've been here. Obviously, architecturally, etc., it's exactly the same. But just the sheer numbers of visitors. I remember, 20 years ago, October was
dead.
Where you think Venice sort of returned to the Venetians.
I know, it was dead. Do you
but
remember?
Now it's still high season.
Don't tell me about it. I mean, I was walking around the other day and thinking, what's going on here?
Yes, exactly. Is there, is there a marathon today or something? Or
I know. Now it wasn't even a Sunday. It was during the week. I couldn't get on the Vaporetto.
This afternoon, I couldn't get on the Vaporetto at the Giardini because of all the people coming out of the Biennale.
Wow.
So I walked onto the Arsenale and got a boat there.
Yeah, I think but I noticed even 10 years ago, it wasn't so bad. I think it's, I don't know, it's just, I had the same feeling. I think I can pinpoint it as well.
I think possibly there's the fact that, for 2 years, nobody was traveling. And so everybody, all those people who didn't come to Venice have decided to come now.
Yeah, I think it's the same. But the trouble is, I was saying with other people, are they the right people? I'm not so sure. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this series of talks, because I have a feeling that for so many, for the last 3 or 4 years, it wasn't done anything to actually trying to educate the people to do Venice in a different way, and we're still there. We're still there, but nobody's doing anything. So, but people ask me, because when they come over, I had, I was lucky a few days ago, I met people that were here for 10 days. That for Venice is wow. Okay. And they were trying to ask me to do so many experiences. They wanted to do rowing, they wanted to do cooking, they wanted to do, they wanted to do things. So the requests are there. It's just, I don't think there is a system by which
exactly, to help
the
people.
city. Exactly. I mean, if you do the research, you do find on your own. But there should be a system where it's the city that promotes, like other cities do. Today I was watching somebody, because I'm finally going to America in January, finally. So my friend sent me a little short video of the city where I'm going to stay with her done. And we're talking about, it's Chattanooga. We're not talking about a big, we're not talking about New York or Los Angeles, Chattanooga. Okay. But they did a 3-minute video. That was so interesting. I was like, oh my God, I want to go. But showing all the different things that you can do. And Venice,
I suppose one of the problems is that Venice knows they don't have to do videos to get to attract people to come, and that is the problem. Venice just thinks they're going to come anyway. So
or certain type of videos, or if you want to do certain type of videos, if you want to be in it, you got to pay for it. That's the problem. But the Venetian attitude is always, you want to be in it, you pay for it. That can be a bit tricky. Well, Gregory, what can I say? By the way, where can people find you online?
I've got a website, gregorydowling.com. It's very simple.
Good.
I'm on Twitter, and I'm on and I have an authors page on Facebook.
Good.
I think I'm Gregory Dowling 1 on Twitter. So,
okay, good. And
I'm on Instagram as well. So.
Oh, you're on Instagram? Oh my God, I didn't know you were on Instagram. Okay.
Yeah, I don't post very much on it. I mean, not like, for example, my son has become an Instagram influencer.
Okay. 2 seconds about your son. He is so funny. He's gone so good at it. He's really good.
You'd be very glad. I mean, he's had one video that's been seen 8 million times.
Oh my God. Do you realize oh my God, that's unbelievable. That's who I should interview. Never mind you.
Absolutely, no. I think you should.
Where does he live now?
He lives in London, but he's coming to Venice for 2 months. November and December.
Oh, that would be interesting. Oh, I might just put it down. That would be, well. It definitely gets my ratings up if I if I interview him. Yeah. He doesn't need me. I need him.
I mean, I have another son, Christopher, who lives in Bologna, and he's not so he's not an Instagram poster. He's a more retired, not retired. Let's say more private person.
Yeah. Okay, Gregory, it was so nice talking to you again. And I was saying to Philip, you should organize a thriller festival in Venice.
That would be
And since I'm gonna interview Marco Vidal soon, I might just nudge him about it. And see, okay, and then I'll be happy to be the organizer. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Not
many people want to be organizers, so if you
I think it will be a great. Listen, there's Venice events everywhere for everything. This will be at least that kind of event that will bring a certain type of people to the city. So
there are certainly enough writers who have, thriller writers who.
If you get a series of bookshops.
Of course, the one person I think we would want to have, but we probably won't have, is Donna Leon, because I know. Don't think she does these sort of events. But but there you go.
But there's a lot of other that we can ask. It's not a problem. And with Italians too. There's a lot of
absolutely,
there's loads of it. I mean, like, have you ever read the
Tiraboschi, I think would be.
And Davide Busato, have you read some of his stuff?
No, I haven't read. No, I haven't.
Oh, he's really good. He's he's an archaeologist, so you do know that when he writes about history and stuff, he's an historian and archaeologist, so he's pretty much on the ball when it comes down to writing those things. But it's very nice. I got some of his books. Hold of his. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Speak to you soon, and thank you again for being on the episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Monica. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
A big thank you to Gregory for chatting to us tonight. You can find Gregory at www.gregorydowling.com and on Twitter as GregoryDowling1. Thank you again for listening. If you want to book a food tour or a cooking experience with me, you can find me on my blog www.monicacesarato.com or at cookingvenice.com, and also on all social medias with the handle at Monica Cesarato and at cookingvenice. Feel free to leave a comment or write to info@monicacesarato.com for more information about the people featured in the podcast or Venice. Bye bye!